All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Best Self Blueprint. So, as you all know, the mission of this podcast is to bring on guests who I believe have the knowledge, insights, and experiences as to what it takes to move that dial towards becoming the best version of yourself. So, this next guest sets the gold standard for pursuing your passions and stepping into your true self. His passion for life has brought him many exciting adventures, inspiring individuals, and beautiful places. After studying environmental studies and geography, he's now giving river guiding tours, which I am very excited for him to explain to you about. And in his free time, he's rock climbing, staying active, staying healthy, and staying happy. So, to officially introduce Joey Filmanowicz, what is up?
Howdy, Trevor. Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one. As I say every time, but that's because I'm always excited.
Hey, that's a
So
good thing, though, right?
I hope so. Yeah. So what I want to start with is, and I brought it up before we got going, but the short story you wrote with you have an older brother and people were always comparing you to him.
Hmm.
And then the ukulele got brought into the equation and it kind of taught you like it taught you to just focus on your passions and be yourself. If you could talk about that, I think that would be really useful for people.
Totally. Yeah, the ukulele was a catalyst for self confidence and individuality, I guess. No, but I guess yeah. Funny. I'm actually wondering where you found that story because I remember I haven't thought about that in a long time. Um, but yeah, I think throughout my childhood, I was just setting myself up with expectation just to be just like my brother, Um, and my brother is an amazing guy for anybody who knows him. What wonderful person and super smart and talented and everything. And I was setting myself up to be exactly like him and talented and intelligent in the way that he was and everything. And when when that wasn't really happening, I was getting totally let down. Kind of like we build up stories for ourselves and how we think we want to be and what we should be. And when we inevitably don't make those things, then we get let down and end up being dissatisfied, unfortunately, with ourselves. Um, and pretty much, I, I didn't have to change anything about myself to be satisfied, other than my self expectations, and then once I was promoting those parts that were more true to myself, then I was able actually to do those more effectively and be happier doing them. So
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow, like, once you do have that realization, but I think you were pretty fortunate to learn that early on. Like, there are people right now who go into careers and build their career for, like, 10, 20 years before realizing that same exact thing.
for
Um,
sure.
so that's why I wanted to start with that is because I think it's important for people to take into account, like, are you doing the things you're doing because it's for you and it's something that you love and it kind of calls to who you are, or are you doing it to aspire to kind of carbon copy someone who, like you said, he's an amazing person, no one
Oh
no
yeah,
one can argue
yeah,
that,
yeah,
but that's him being him, and I think people need to put more emphasis on, like, okay, what is it going to take to be the best me? And
yeah, totally.
so I want you to talk about, like, after that realization, because now you're doing what you love, you're living in a place you love. So, like, what was the kind of storyline from that realization to now, where, like, you've set yourself up in a situation where you're living a very, like, happy, satisfied life?
Yeah, totally. Um, I think, yeah, kind of just, I was really trying to force a lot of things. Like, I mean, gosh, this is so long ago. It's hard to even talk about. But I remember in high school, I was just wanted to be so good at sports, like my bro. Like just got to be good at sports and or team sports and lacrosse and everything, and that's how you're going to be cool or successful at school or whatever. So funny to talk about this now because it's like so long ago. But then like once I really gave up the fight on those things, I started finding things like ceramics in school and joined the rock climbing team. Actually starting the rock climbing team at our high school, which was kind of funny. Um, and yeah, once I, like I said, just gave up the fight trying to force those things into myself, then I was able to open up that space and time to find those passions that are so important to me now. And pursuing things like rock climbing pretty much brought me to Colorado for college, and ended up shaping my life from then on. Just those activities and those people who are doing them, and kind of the mindsets that you find in those communities and stuff like that definitely has pushed my life in the way that it is now, which is pretty much just pursuing the outdoors in any way possible.
Yeah, I'm with that, man. I think everyone needs to get outside more
Oh,
often. Like it.
totally. It doesn't have to be on an extreme rock climbing adventure. There's so many ways to get outside, and so much more access around than people are really aware of. And there's
Mhm.
all sorts of community groups that are making this access really easy for people, and keeping trailheads clean and stuff like that. So there's plenty of ways to get outside.
Yeah, and I want to talk about rock climbing with you mostly because of like what we were talking about before we got on. Now, for anyone who's religiously watching this show, they know I talk about rock climbing a decent amount, but that's because of exactly what we were discussing, where rock climbing and just that type of activity in general does a fantastic job of teaching you to be in the moment and only focused on what you're doing in the present and not worrying about, the past, the future, the troubles in your life, things like that. So if you could talk about that just in terms of like what we were talking about before with that ability to tap into such a focused state.
Totally. I do want to say be careful, because we might end up talking about rock climbing the whole time, because I will talk about rock climbing all day long. But yeah, that I often refer to it as like required attention, like that necessity to be in the moment, whatever that means, and be paying complete attention to what you're doing. I mean, anytime you're traveling around the backcountry, you kind of need to be looking for hazards all around you, and not to say you're always in danger when you're going rock climbing, but you just need to be in that mindset of uh, what could go wrong. Is everything tied right? Does my gear look good? Did I check my rope? Is this in good shape? How about my partner? Are they aware? Because that's another whole part of it too. Is your team has to be totally dialed in as well. So just kind of that mindset of always being aware of the little things too. Like how's your knot look? Is there a chance for rock fall up there? Do we need to not climb here? Um, you know, just kind of, yeah, just like we said, that mental tick list always going off, and trying to not let yourself get distracted, because if you're on the second pitch of a climb and you have 8 more pitches to go, you have to be paying attention, and have to be thinking about moving fast and stuff like that. So
Yeah. So for people who don't know what a pitch is, it's usually like one rope length.
yep.
And ropes are decently long. So 8 pitches is it's a pretty significant climb to say the least.
Totally. I'm not always
Um,
doing climbs that long, but they're it's pretty fun to get up that high.
oh, for sure. Yeah. So another thing I want to talk about is with your like the river guiding that you do. So you were talking about just, and it seems like I don't want to get like too woo woo with it, but like it does seem like the universe rewards people, or like karma or whatever you want to call it, rewards people for putting themselves in positions of like their passion, and then they work hard at that. So
Well,
talk about some of like, because you said you've met some awesome people, you've seen some awesome things. Talk about like just that feeling around you setting yourself up in a career and in an environment that really lets you be you to the best of your ability.
for sure. I'm glad you touched on the hard work thing, because you know river guiding is like kind of, it's almost like the outdoors, the college kids outdoor like dream summer job. You know, it's fun and you're in the water and everybody's happy because you're whitewater rafting and it's fun and exciting. But especially on these multi-day trips, it's like a ton of work. And it's amazing work, but it's you work from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. when you're done with dishes, and then you go to bed at the job site and you wake up at the job site. And but it's an amazing way to, kind of like you said, we were talking about before with the attention, just really get into a flow of working, and then it almost doesn't feel like work, it just feels like life, because that's what you're doing every day. So it's kind of an interesting way of setting work away from, or people say like make your job not a job or whatever, like it's kind of an interesting way of doing that because it's literally your whole day. So it's not like you're at work and not at work, which also brings its, sometimes stressors as well. Um, but yeah, I think the hard work aspect there is so cool because to get those rewarding experiences, to get to the peak, you need to put in some effort. And putting in that really focused effort into one avenue can just, I feel like, increase what you can gain from it so much. So, spending a whole summer doing trips all summer long every day, you meet some amazing people. And especially on those multi-day trips, you get 7 days to talk with them and really go deep. And it's really cool watching some of these people who were a complete stranger 3 days ago totally open up with you on a boat or at dinner. And, um, you know, I've learned some amazing lessons from some of the older guests that we have, and just some amazing insights being out in the wilderness together. And it's really incredible, especially because of that hard work you got to put in at the beginning, you know?
Yeah, man. So I always talk about like anyone can put a dialed in amount of focus on something for a short period of time, but I think what really like sets people apart, whether it's in any area of life, it's your ability to do like to compound that focus
Mhm.
over a long period of time. Because if you're
Totally.
willing to like dial in, like you said, on like one thing, and you have passion for that one thing, which makes it way easier to put
Yeah.
that compound focus in. Like if you're willing to put in that consistent effort over a long period of time, like what we talked about with like the kind of the plateau as opposed
Mhm.
to like the volatility of effort and passion and energy overall, like I think you're just going to set yourself up for such a more satisfying lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah. And even riding through the valleys, I mean, because you're not going to be going up all the time. And don't get me wrong, it's not, you know, not always feeling like my best self when it's 115 degrees and my shoes are falling apart on the river because the rubber melted, like that. But those are the experiences that you got to push through and put the hard work through, because then you have, that amazing insight at the end.
So this is a good point. I want to bring up the quote you mentioned, and I want to make sure that I get it right. So
Oh gosh, okay.
you said um, that you're excited to talk about the experience of self growth, not as a way to get somewhere, but as the act of getting there. If you could explain that, because that is powerful.
Well, yeah, I guess I don't know what to say too much about it, but um, I guess kind of the point is that I don't know if I'm enlightened, or I don't know if I am self-grown, or I am, you know, as the complete person that I should be. But I think I have a pretty good idea that I know I am growing and I'm experiencing self-growth, and, trying to find those, amazing experiences from life. And I'm trying to really pay attention to what I need and what I want. And sometimes that's confusing too, but I don't think I can claim to, have reached nirvana or be enlightened. But I know that, I'm on the way. So I think that's kind of the whole point. Maybe you have something to say about that too, but I think that the experience is the important part. Um,
Oh,
you know,
oh, absolutely. Yeah, I have a lot to say about this. So
I'd love to
I
hear it.
was
Let it rip.
I was so happy when you sent this over because for me this is what life is about. Life, if you're only focused on the destination or like let's say the achievement, that's just
Mhm.
1% of the experience. You have the preparation,
Totally.
you have the planning, you have
Totally.
the practice, you have, the pre-achievement actions that get you to that final 1%. And if
Mhm.
you're only focused on 1% of everything that you experience, you're missing 99% of life. And like
Sure.
you took it to like a macro level of like life itself, which I thought was awesome. I always call that like the pursuit.
For sure.
So life, the thing I love about life, a lot of people find this frustrating, and at times I do too, but I absolutely love the fact that there's really no like finish line in the sense of, all right, like I did this thing, I got to like this point of self growth, like I'm good, I'm done, I
Yeah.
can just set up camp. And it's like no, it's a pursuit, it's a constant pursuit of like making sure that you're the person you want to be, making sure that you're living the life you want to live. Whatever that means to you. Um,
Totally, yeah.
but
And that's why I think focusing less on the peak experiences of achievement and everything, and while those are great and you got to search for those too, but really appreciating the climb, and because there's so many little, and that's what I think is just so amazing about these things we do to try and stay present, or however you want to call it. You're able to better appreciate and be grateful for those little, you know, little good experiences, and even little growing pains, and moments of uncomfortability.
oh my gosh, that's so true. And I think too, like just putting into perspective why you're doing the thing. So like what you're talking about, if you thoroughly enjoy the river guiding, you thoroughly enjoy that job. And just like you said, like there are gonna be days where it's 1:15, which that is pretty gnarly.
Oh, it's amazing, man. It's crazy.
So like it's 1:15, your shoes are quite literally like melting off. Like if you didn't have your why in the back of your head of like why you love it, like why you're, enduring that part of the
Yeah,
job, like you're gonna put your 2 weeks in real quick at the end of that trip.
hiking out of there.
Yeah, so like I think just keeping the perspective on those, like you call them like the valleys, kind of the lower points,
Mhm.
I think is huge because if you can like tether to your why and tether to what brought you into doing that in the first place and how important that is to you,
Yeah,
like it's gonna take away so much of that negative energy around whatever the lull is.
yeah. And I'd be interested to hear what you have to think, or have to say about this as well. But um, I I think especially in this field, and probably in a lot of fields, it's really important to approach things with a sense of humor too. Just being able to laugh it off, and it's not always possible, and sometimes there are situations where you need to be super serious, of course. But when sometimes when you're in those ruts, you just got to approach it with some humor. And it's amazing how much a little humor to a situation can relieve you of most of the stress.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that actually ties a lot into, I mean, not directly, but because I know you want to talk about this and I love talking about this, I think that comes into effect a lot with like healthy lifestyle in and of itself, where people think of it as like, oh, it's like this serious thing. Like I gotta go get my workout in and I gotta like meal
Yeah.
prep and I gotta do all these things. But at the end of the day, like you should be doing things that you enjoy doing.
Mhm.
And like you should be able to bring that like fun, lighthearted energy to it where like for example, just either yesterday or 2 days ago, it's kind of bad that I can't remember, but at some point in the last 48 hours, I was with
Probably.
a buddy of mine, Justin Plesnick, who was actually on the podcast, and he was running me through a bunch of just like really creative, fun ways to train with like bow staffs and lightsabers and
Wow.
kettlebells and like all these things. And the most important thing he said, because I haven't done this in longer than I should have, but he's like, every time you make a mistake, I want you to just laugh. Like
Yeah.
I want you to smile and laugh because he noticed I would like drop a kettlebell when I'm trying to like throw it through the air or something. And I would be like, oh dang. And he's like, no, man, like just laugh it off. Like
Yeah, totally.
it's not like you just like lost the gold medal for the US or something like that. Like it doesn't
Don't
really affect you. So you might as well have fun with it. And
totally.
I think that's such a huge part of your career, your, fitness, your health, your relationships is like, yeah, there are going to be really serious things where like maybe cracking a joke isn't very appropriate, but
Yeah.
for the most part, like you're going to be able to like integrate some type of fun, lighthearted energy.
Absolutely. And then it just, I feel like gives you the freedom to enjoy it, even when it's not something that would be so clear to enjoy. But bring a little humor in there, and you find yourself laughing and enjoying the times when you drop the kettlebell on your toe or something.
Yeah. So luckily we were, for the most part, we were using like a rubber kettlebell.
Oh,
So if it
nice.
did hit, like it still wouldn't have felt great, but I probably would have not had to go to the hospital.
Yeah, right.
But one thing I want to transition into because, and I'm really curious your perspective on this because I know you want to talk about it, but
Okay.
demystifying what it takes to living a health or what it takes to live a healthy life.
Mm.
What were your thoughts on that when you brought that up?
Yeah, I guess I was kind of thinking about what we might connect on in this podcast just after seeing what you're interested in things, and I've seen that you're interested in all sorts of kind of unconventional fitness methods. Maybe I'd call them, like Ninja Warrior and obstacle courses and things like that. Um, and I think that that is just so awesome for people to find their way to move their body that feels really good. And I'm, I think for a long time I was just super inspired by people who ski really hard or rock climb really hard and things. And I think I'm almost more transitioning into just loving watching people do the thing that they're really interested in. I think watching a yogi who is totally divin in, or dove has totally wow totally
Dived, dove.
yeah dove has engaged fully into their practice. We'll just skip the dive word altogether. But yeah, totally gone full into their practice, and they never pick up a weight in their life, and they're absolutely ripped and totally in control of their body. I think it's just so cool to watch these people do these unconventional workout methods, especially because for me, going to the gym and lifting weights and doing those kind of more conventional workouts never really spoke to me. But then something like going to run barefoot outside or you know swim in a cold lake or some of those other I guess more outdoor activities, but even yoga inside or something, these kind of more playful methods of exercise have just really spoken to me. And I think it can be kind of freeing for people who are trying to get healthy and trying to get active, to know that there's so many more options out there, because it can be kind of frustrating if running hurts your knees and you don't want to go to the gym during a pandemic or something, like for someone who's trying to do that, it can be so frustrating, but there's so many ways to, even just starting to go for walks can be such an amazing step to just like learn how to enjoy that and learn how to enjoy that feeling in your body. And I feel like it can lead to so many amazing discoveries of, how you like to move your body and get active that way.
Yeah, man. So I mean, if we're talking like just fully demystifying like healthy lifestyle in general,
Yeah.
I'm going to let everyone in on a little secret that I mentioned to you.
Yeah.
If obviously like if you're looking to go into like a bodybuilding competition or perform at a really high level, I hate to be the person to tell you, you're probably gonna have to do some things that aren't fun.
Yeah.
Like that's just the way it is.
Totally.
But if you're just simply looking to be healthy, anything works. Like any way you move your body, as long as it's not like causing injuries,
Yeah, right. Totally.
any healthy foods you're eating, as long as you know relatively like that it's whole foods that you are getting, like your proteins, your healthy fats, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then in terms of like mental and emotional health, as long as you're taking time for yourself to do things that you love to do and pulling yourself out of that constant like negative stimulus that you're just reactionarily running through your day, like anything works.
Totally. Yeah.
Anything works. And so yeah, when it comes to fitness and when it comes to like the actual like what you're talking about of like lifting weights, running on the treadmill, doing 100 crunches a day,
Yeah.
like there are some people who that's fun for. Like I have something in my
Yeah.
brain that allows me to have a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah.
But for most people, that's not the most fun thing in the world. But maybe dancing is really fun for you. And that doesn't
Totally.
mean like ballet dancing. Like I wake up every morning and I throw myself a little 2-minute dance party just because it's fun.
Do
I'm
you
sure
really?
there. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. So we'll get
Yeah.
into this a little bit. We'll go off tangent. So I am very big on starting my day with intention. And so when I wake up, before I cannot get out of bed until I think of 3 things I'm thankful for, and they can't be
Amazing.
the same 3 things that I've mentioned in the last few days. One of them has to be
Amazing.
very like minuscule. One of them has to be like existential, and then the third can be whatever I want. Once I
Oh, cool.
list those 3 things, then what I do is I get out of bed and no music or anything. I just throw myself a little dance party for two
I love
minutes.
it.
Just start
I
moving
love it.
around, make my bed, drink some water, and then I'm good to go.
Ready to go. Yes, that is amazing. Isn't it? As long as you mentioned this, isn't it kind of amazing what doing, even a very simple gratitude practice like that can do for your mind? It's amazing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have so many clients testimonials who like and for anyone who's curious, like I make it almost condescending how easy their first month or two is, because I simply want them to build the habit. I don't want them to, I'm not one of those like get washboard abs in 6 weeks, anything like that. Like it takes
Those
time.
are all bogus anyway.
But what's fascinating about that, and I didn't even intend for this to happen, is I'll usually start them off with, a very simple gratitude practice, and it has a monumental shift in their life.
Oh, it's so cool.
And it's because you're taking 2 minutes maybe out of your day to shift your focus from like, okay, like how many likes did I get on my last Instagram post, or like how many like texts did I get from people wishing me happy birthday or whatever. You're shifting your focus from like that dopamine rush based on, the lottery of what's sitting on your phone in the morning, and you're putting it on focusing on like, okay, what throughout the day am I grateful that I get to experience? Who am I grateful to get to talk to? All those things. And bit by bit, it really shifts your synaptic firing.
Yeah, absolutely. And creates that muscle memory too of, what's the first thing my head's going to go to when something's wrong? Is it going to go to, nerves, anxiety, or is it going to go to, gratitude and, calm thinking, that I feel like you create so many ways, or you create so many habits without even knowing it. And when you do something, more self-analytical and meditative, like that gratitude practice, it really does shift your automatic thinking process. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing, especially shifting it in the way of gratitude. I feel like, kind of like what we were saying, like being able to appreciate those little growing pains and things. Just shifting your mindset into being aware of those, even, I feel like just opens up a sense of gratitude to, not see all those things as bad and be grateful for the whole process.
Oh, for sure. And so the thing about gratitude too is like it has such a snowball effect in the sense that like once you actually get into it and you start like seeing these things in a light that you haven't seen them before, that light is going to broaden and you're going to see so many other things that you otherwise weren't thankful for. So like for example, like one thing I'm thankful for is lids on a water bottle, because if you don't have a lid and you're driving on a bumpy road, you're spilling water all over the place.
You're
so
right.
it's little things like that where you usually don't think about them until something goes wrong. Like for people who have their own cars, like you don't think about how fortunate you are to be able to drive yourself wherever you want until you get a flat tire, or until your car breaks down and you can't get to the place you wanted to get to. It's like, well, now all of a sudden you're upset because that thing that you should have been grateful for all along is now no longer functioning.
Yeah. And almost it's funny if you're in that mode of gratitude, or I guess just being able to take situations calmly. When you do get that flat tire, especially if you can approach it with some humor, you tend to be a bit more calm and grateful that you had it for so long. And I almost feel like better prepared to handle the situation effectively, if you're coming to it from a point of calm and gratitude. It's like, okay, well, this is happening and I had this for a long time. No, that doesn't help us at all to freak out right now or get really flustered. How are we going to deal with this? And let's do the best we can.
Yeah, so I totally agree. So I think, yes, gratitude going into it. So that way, like once the situation happens, you understand like, okay, well, I've been blessed with this,
Yep.
and this.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
this one bad thing happened. Like that's okay. That's life. The second one I like is go into it with a sense of humor. The third one though, and I think everyone should practice this, and I mentioned this to you, is you should be on a daily basis practicing discomfort. And so what I mean by that is you should be intentionally putting yourself in situations, and I've mentioned this before on the show, but like don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to get like physically injured or like really traumatized, or you're going to go hurt somebody else, but like
Totally.
do something regularly that gets you out of your comfort zone, whether that's with your environment, whether that's physically with like cold immersion, like a cold shower, whether that's whatever, you name it, something to get you out of your comfort zone. So that way, when that thing happens, and I'm just now thinking about a car breaking down because it's in my
That's
head, but
totally.
now when that thing happens, you're going to be used to the feeling of being uncomfortable,
Mhm.
and you're going to be way less freaked out, and you're going to be much more like centered.
Totally, yeah. And I mean, just back on the river guiding thing, it's amazing how many little things can go wrong. Not usually nothing detrimental, but amazing how many little things can go wrong. Oh, your stove stopped working, or someone left this cooler open and now there's no ice, and we have to figure out how to keep this cold for the next 6 days. So all these little problems that are just popping up everywhere, and if you let them build up, they can really stress you out. But like you said, being able to lean into that uncomfortability is an amazing superpower, and it applies to everyone's life to see that it's not a bad thing and lean into it. And it's incredible. And I do think exposing yourself every day. I don't know if you do the cold water stuff, but that's definitely been one of my favorite ways to appreciate the uncomfortability.
Oh yeah, yeah, I do. I do a lot of like weird little challenges with myself to get
Nice.
myself out of my comfort zone. So like one of them was I had like a day off where like I told myself, all right, you need to just take the day off. Don't think about business. Don't think about, your training. Just enjoy the day. And so what
Totally.
I did is for about 45 minutes, I just like called random phone numbers until someone someone answered and talked to me. Um, and I wouldn't, if someone was just like, oh yeah, sorry, wrong number and hung up, I wouldn't count that, which happened a couple times. I needed the
Oh,
person to actually have a conversation with me before I could stop. So
oh
that's
my
that's
God.
very uncomfortable, but it's just little things like that.
You're uncomfortable, but also very creative. That is such a cool idea. And
Yeah,
and I
that was
oh sorry.
yeah. No, so it's just little things like that. And I think also doing things like that allows you to like have that like fun, excited energy.
Totally.
Um, and I think that's something that's unfortunately just so lost nowadays with people don't have that exciting, fun energy behind,
Totally.
you know, really anything they're doing.
Yeah, yeah. I think those kind of playfulness practices, like dancing in the morning, or even just there's so many ways to do it. But I think those little things can just, for me, it feels like shaking off the rust. Like, but you're so trained to, you have your little pleasures. You get to watch a movie after work, or have a beer, or you know what your thing is that you like. But then like breaking out of that, you just feel so uncomfortable. And if you
Hmm.
if you can just let yourself like shake the rust off, and I think most importantly, not take yourself too seriously, you can open yourself up to some pretty childlike pleasures, and like pretty silly situations that can be awesome. I think it mostly comes from not taking yourself too seriously. And actually, that's what I wanted to say about your phone call uh, uh, day off. I think that's amazing. You didn't, set yourself up for too much, or you didn't expect anything out of the phone calls. You're like, I just need to talk to someone. And maybe it'll be weird, but could be awesome. We'll go for it. And the only pressure you put on that is pressure that you make up yourself. And you can just let that all go if you want, and probably have a pretty silly, fun day with it. I don't know. That's awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So it's little things like that. And one reason I started doing that is the very first podcast episode, which anyone who hasn't seen this one or watched this one, like go watch it because Chris is awesome. But my buddy Chris, and you'll hear about this at the end, but at the end I always have someone like present a challenge to the listeners, and I always do it myself.
Ooh,
And his was do 10 things to get out of your comfort zone.
nice.
And so that was just this catalyst. Like I have gone nuts with that idea now, where I'm
Yeah,
doing things all the time to just get myself out of my comfort zone. Cause I feel like if you practice that consistently enough, there really isn't a whole lot that can get you out of your comfort zone, because you start to get excited about the feeling of getting out of your comfort zone as
yeah,
opposed
yeah,
to nervous about it.
yeah.
But also like I always go back to, as you're growing up, you keep saying like, oh, well, once I'm like 16 and I have my driver's license, like then I'll be good. Then
Yep.
at 16, you're like, oh, well, once I'm like 18, I'm a legal adult, then I'll be happy.
Yeah.
get 18, it's like, okay, well, no, once I'm 21, then I can drink legally, I can go out to the bars, then life will be good. And all of a sudden you hit like your mid 20s, you're like, okay, like once I'm established in my career, like maybe 5 years down the road, then it'll be great. And all of
Yeah.
a sudden you keep doing that and you hit, obviously I'm not there yet, but from what I've seen, it's
Yeah.
safe to say people hit that point and they're like, wow, I just want to be 15 again.
Yeah. Right.
And so for me, it's like, cool, then I'm going to act like I'm 6 years old, but have the ability to drive around and,
Yeah.
do these fun things, obviously, again, without being very immature about it.
Of
But
course. Of course. Yeah.
yeah, you need to have that fun, creative energy. I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's really just such a big piece to like your energy in life is keeping
Totally.
that alive.
Totally. And there's so many opportunities to do it. And why would you ever want to, rid someone of a life where you could have that much fun, And I've had plenty of privilege in my life, of course, and stuff that's allowed me to try these activities even in the first place, and even then so pursue them in life. But just robbing yourself of those simple pleasures would just be a terrible tragedy for your life. How much fun you can have is incredible.
Yeah, I
Even
can.
even just in your mundane activities, dust off your bike and ride it to work and enjoy that morning. There's so many ways just to break out of your comfort zone and shake the rust off, like we were saying. And it doesn't need to be climbing a mountain. It can be riding your bike to work or having a dance party right when you wake up. There's so many little pleasures.
Absolutely, man. And it reminds me of so I was recently watching, there's a movie called Tag. And
So,
it's based on a real story of these, I think it's like four friends or five friends who every year for a month they play a game of tag and like nothing's off limits. So they like fly to each other's hometowns and like hide in their garages, things like that. And I'm not going to try to ruin the movie for people who haven't seen it, but there comes a point where something happens that like they stop playing the game, and one guy says to the person who's the causal factor in them stopping, he's like, you realize like you killed the kid inside of me, right? Like
oh
you
no.
killed a child. And and like, as like, again, it's funny when you put it in that context, but that is really kind of the way I see, like, if people like just shut down that part of who they are and don't let that like inner child and like that passion and curiosity and just like the giddy excitement of life flow through, I think you're just caging up a part of you that really is one of the best aspects of what life is about.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Just let it go. Just let yourself have a good time. I think there's so many times when people just don't let, I mean, myself included, I've had struggled with this a lot, just not letting yourself have a good time. You know, don't take yourself too seriously. Just let it go and have a good time, which is easier said than done, of course. But
Most things are, yeah. But
it's
cool,
hard to.
man. So before we wrap up, I always do a final two. But before we get into that, because I think there's going to be a decent amount of people who either want to hear how they can sign up for a river tour,
Oh yeah,
anyone
yeah.
who is into rock climbing who wants to connect with you. So
Oh
where can
great,
people connect with you to like ask questions or just keep up with what you're doing?
totally, yeah. Facebook is probably the best place to do it. Usually check that every couple days or once a day or so. So Facebook, I think my name will probably be on the podcast.
Yep.
So, or yeah, just check below. And yeah, so you can find my name on there. Search me on Facebook. I don't know what my picture is, but it'll look like me. You can find me on Instagram. I'm not on that as much anymore, but Facebook's the best way to do it. And you can feel free to put my email in here, honestly.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's great.
All right. So his info will be
That's
below.
if you're ever in Montana, hit me up and we'll go rock climbing or skiing or something.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm probably gonna look into like the river tour because that just sounds so fun. But
It's an amazing way. I mean, 7 days with, I mean, talk about being present too. 7 days away from and all everything else that you're thinking about. You couldn't work if you wanted to. I mean, it's amazing. It's incredible.
I'll be looking into it. But all right, so getting into the final two, this I think is really fun, especially for like someone with your mentality where you said like, I know I'm not, or you said, I believe like, I'm pretty sure I'm not fully enlightened. However, like I know I'm in the pursuit. Like I know
Mhm.
I'm making the path,
Mhm.
pursuing it. The first question for my final two is what for you is the next step in becoming the best version of yourself?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, I think probably choosing that next. It's actually kind of something I've been thinking about because I'm sort of in a moment of transition anyway in my life. But um, I think choosing that next, uh, probably either career path or passion, to kind of like we were talking about, put that majority of your energy into, um, and really picking that one and doubling down on it. Because I have a pretty epic summer job, um, but my winters and time in between the guiding has been kind of you know kind of like you were saying before, trying out a bunch of different jobs and things. And I think I'm pretty excited to become more of an expert in one field, I guess, and pour a bunch of energy into that. And I have a few ideas of what that'll be, but yeah, I think it's pretty amazing to dive full on into something. So I think that's probably my next step because I've done a lot of floating around and trying a lot of stuff out, but I'm pretty excited to gain more expertise in one field.
You are in good company. As I talked about, I I truly believe I was like the epitome of like remedial job seeking.
Yeah, totally.
Um, but yeah, man, I'm excited to see what you do. Like just your ability to pour so much passion into the things you do, like whatever career path you pick, I think is going to be really fun to see what you do
Oh,
in it.
thanks, man. Yeah, and I think that you've probably experienced this too, but a lot of it is just saying yes and being willing to work hard. And I think having that open mind and everything makes it not such a chore. Can actually be a great opportunity to pour all your effort into something, and maybe lose a little sleep, but it's okay in the end, I think.
Yeah, man. I'm excited for you. Now, the last question, which you got a sneak peek of it when I mentioned this, but um this last part is where you get to directly like challenge the audience. So
Yeah,
if you could pick one thing for them to do or like one challenge, one task that they can, check a box that it's done, and after doing it it'll either like better their life in some way or like what you were talking about just like allow them to let loose and have fun, like something
yeah,
that you think will just like enhance their life at while doing it or after doing it. What is the challenge that you would give people?
man, this is so tough because there's so many different roads you could try to go down here. Um, but I'm actually glad you mentioned it before because it gave me a second to think about it. Uh, hmm. Yeah, I think oh man, there's so many I want to talk about, but there'll be more inspiring people on this podcast, and they'll give you some more good challenges. So I'll just pick one. Um, but I think if and I would like to challenge the audience to find a way to be totally comfortable um, doing nothing for a minute. Even if you can, um, a minute, 10 minutes is even better. But just to start off, try to take a minute to sit, um, you know, in a chair or on a mat or whatever, and just be okay. To try to be completely 100% content with not achieving anything or not doing anything, not having music on, not talking to a friend, not eating something tasty, just
Not sitting
1 minute
on
to be, yeah, not sitting on that. Exactly. Yeah. 1 minute to be okay. Or doing nothing, achieving nothing, learning nothing, just being, and it's hard to do for even a full minute. And then I guess kind of your homework or your post test after that exercise would be to see using that once a day in your life and seeing how that might affect your daily life, and maybe interest in situations and things. Because I think that that moment of being okay with doing nothing um, can really lead to some amazing insights. Whether you're sitting on a bus and you want to look at your phone, but you could look to the person next to you and to say what's up instead. I think training your brain to move away from those little achievements that you think you can make by checking Instagram or whatever. And you know, just giving yourself a pause and seeing what else is around, I think is an amazing opportunity. And learning how to do nothing, I think, is an amazing way to get there. So try to
Yeah,
be okay doing nothing.
that's huge, dude. And I like what you said about like learn to be okay doing nothing. Like that
Mhm.
at this point is an acquired skill.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, I'm still every day still trying to learn it.
yeah. So, and I'm gonna kind of tie into that. So like what Joey was saying was like do it and then like try to incorporate that, like try to do it every day. And I will say, no matter how busy you are, you can find 60 seconds,
Yeah,
whether like, even if it's like, if you have a busy family life, you have no time to yourself at home, like lock yourself in the bathroom,
yeah, right. The
sit
bathroom.
crisscross applesauce, and
Yeah.
just take 60 seconds. Like
Mhm.
everyone has 60 seconds in a given day. I don't
Yeah.
care who you are, like show me your schedule and I'll show you 60 seconds. But
Mhm.
yeah, man, I think that's huge. And I always do these challenges myself. Now I do what's called RMT, so it's reset meditation therapy.
Oh, cool.
Um, and that's like a usually like a 2 or so minute practice that
Oh,
just kind of like resets your intention with like who you want to be in the given moment.
oh, cool.
Um, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna for the next week, because it's Friday. So every day until next Friday, what I'll do is instead of doing RMT, like I'll not even like think of the intention. I'll simply just sit and be with myself and kind
Mhm.
of swap those two things out, and I'll let you know how it goes.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. I'd love. Do you have any challenges for me, Trevor? I'm excited about what you're up to.
Ooh, I do. All right. So let's see, which direction do I want to take this? So I've got one. So I'll tell it to you, and then I was actually gonna I do a Friday focus every week. I
Oh,
was
cool.
planning on doing this for my Friday focus, but I'll put it on here instead. So my challenge for you and for anyone else who's gotten to this point is do something extra to educate yourself on your given field. So like for you, for like whether it's like for rock climbing, whether it's for playing the ukulele, whether it's for river guiding, like read something, an article, a book, like some material that will allow you to better practice that thing. So like if someone's in human resources, like read a book on human resources. If
Yeah,
someone's
yeah.
in sales, read a book on sales. um but I think like people, and I don't think this is everybody, but some people seem to think that like once you graduate or once you're done with school, like you're done with education,
Mhm.
and education should be like a lifelong pursuit.
Yeah.
So just pick one thing up. So like for me, luckily I have books that like self-development is my business. So
Yeah.
I'm just really fortunate in that I get to kind of double dip with that. But yeah, like my goal for this year is 52 books in 52 weeks. And
Wow,
I
nice.
I will say like even the first 4 weeks in, like I've learned so much about my field and different ways to approach working with clients and my own life, my own training, my own pursuits. So just one thing. And then if you like that one thing, go ahead and read more, do whatever, but at least do one thing, just like you can at least do 1 minute.
Yeah. All right. I already got some ideas, so we'll check back in. Also, who was the author on that last book?
Uh, for like this book,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's
Oh.
called
Oh.
The Compound Effect. It's by Darren Hardy.
Okay. Cool.
Um, Amazing book. I mean, I keep a stack of like my top books
Nice.
right here, but yeah.
Amazing.
Oh yeah.
Reading is a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. It was something I had a guy on who, I mean, this dude is a beast with reading, but he talked about how like it's not that people don't like reading, it's that people haven't read the right books.
Mm,
And I think that's so true.
I think you're totally right. Yeah.
But
I always stemmed away from nonfiction because I was like, oh, I'll just get bored, and then I would always thought I didn't like reading, and I was like, oh no, I pretty much just like nonfiction.
mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah, man. All
I
right.
like, but that was my bridge into other ways of reading too. But it was like you're totally yeah, yeah.
Yeah, dude. Reading is like, oh, it's my jam now. But
That's awesome. I'd love to share some books too.
oh, absolutely, man. I'm always in. All
We could
right.
do it.
So for people, oh, go for it.
No, I was just saying we could do a swap over the mail. That'd be kind of fun.
I'm in. All right. And that is something I think everyone else should do too. So one more challenge. You're just getting like three
Oh
for the price
God.
of one.
Oh,
So,
you're straight away.
all right. For everybody who's listening, I want to thank you for taking the time out. These are meant to hopefully give you a little insight as to ways to better your life in any given area. So I want to commend anyone who's gotten to this point for really taking the time to better yourself, to listen to our little back and forth on a few different ways that can hopefully better your life with, having more grace and gratitude, bringing a sense of humor, instilling some work ethic behind the things you're doing. There were a lot of good points in here, and I want to respect anyone who takes the time to seek this advice. Joey, I want to thank you for, like I said in the intro, man, like you truly do set the gold standard for like just setting up your environment and your lifestyle to be like the truest, best you that you can be, and not trying to chase someone else's dream or like achieve other people's goals or set yourself up to do things that you should do according to other people, but like really just being yourself and like leaning into that. And I've learned so much from you just
Oh,
from, we've known each other for, I
go
don't
way
even
back.
know how long. Yeah. But so I want to respect you and thank you for the example that you set for people, because like what you were saying beforehand, we were like, well, I don't know if I've had these like crazy achievements that you want on the show. It's like, man, you've set your life up to really thrive and like be content in you and your life long term. And I think really like that's the goal, is fulfillment. And so like, man, much respect for what you've done.
Trevor, yeah, and right back at you. Just thank you again so much for having me. It's been so good to talk to you again, and it's really cool what you're doing here. I think, and yeah, just helping people be better versions of themselves. Not you know, everyone's not going to be the same. Just be the best you. I love it.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah,
Hit the
thanks,
nail on
thanks
the
for
head.
making it not so mysterious and difficult. It can be easier than we think sometimes. So,
Yep.
thanks.
It's little things, man. That's all it
Absolutely.
is. The
Oh,
little
well,
things are the big things. That's
sure are.
boom. We'll end it with
Life's
that. So,
boom.
for anyone who has questions about anything we covered, questions about rock climbing, more for Joey than for me, about, setting yourself up to actually be in a lifestyle that caters to your truest version of yourself, um, ask us, like comment below, reach out to us. Both of our information will be in the show notes. And if there's someone who is maybe thinking about taking that leap and moving out to Colorado or moving out to Montana and pursuing a life that's really more suitable to their true self, have them watch this. That's what the share button's for. I say that all the time, but like Joey is a great example for anyone who is interested in doing that, but is just a little hesitant, and they can reach out to him as well. So
Love to talk.
awesome. Other than that, thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will talk to you next week.